Okay, I'm making this video in case I don't make it back to finish working on this, and maybe you can. So far, I've taken off the injectors, taken the fuel res off, valve covers off, the spark plug is out. This little thing is out too. So I've laid out everything here, and I'm just gonna go briefly in order of what needs to be done to put this back together. First, these injectors, this is probably the problem. So if you have new ones, just make sure they're the exact same kind as this. You're gonna need a 10 and a 12. Probably won't need an extension, but this is up to you. And then a 5/8 ratchet, or a 5/8 wrench, whatever. And it's gonna be everything in the picture right here. First, you're gonna take these injectors. I'm gonna use this one as an example. And these spacers. And see right there where these two are touching? This is where the spacer goes. So, you pop this up, spacer goes in there, this sits on top. They're out right now because they fall out really easy, and you don't want to lose them. You really need them. The injector goes like this. This little O-ring goes into this hole, and then that hole down there is where this goes. They connect to this plug. I'm sure you could figure that out. As an example, that's what it looks like plugged in. They're a bitch to pull out. But yeah, they sit kind of like this. The fuel rail on top. Make sure these O-rings are not cracked or not going to leak or anything. So that you can, there's no leaks. Once you have all 4 injectors in place, they should seat, like they should, I don't want to say click, but like you should feel when they're in, because when you take them out, there's kind of a click. Next, you're going to bolt down the fuel rail with these. And remember the spacer, they go in here. This is I have it out, it's a 12 millimeter. And then you're gonna take these tiny little guys, and these go on the fuel pressure regulator. See, there's two spots here, one right here, one right here. They go in there. Don't over tighten them, don't be crazy with it. You can push this down right here to rotate this out of your way a little bit. And at that point, the fuel rail should be on. After the fuel rail, the next thing to do is these. This is what you're gonna need for it. 1/4 inch ratchet, 8 millimeter. You could probably use one of these with a 8 millimeter on the end, but I find it easier just to use the little baby one. And you're gonna take this. There's 4 of them, and it's gonna be this thing. Make sure this gasket is nice and seated in the channel, and then these just feed through the back here. Do not use this. Don't use the screwdriver thing. Use the 8 millimeter, and this literally just fits right here on the side. You can reach all the bolts, no problem. It's not hard to take out. See how that's sitting in its groove? Make sure it's doing that. You don't want it to leak. And then these go right here. I might actually just put them there. Next thing to do, easy thing to do, is probably going to be the spark plug. This is a 5/8, I believe. Yeah, 5/8 spark plug socket. So it's got the little rubber in the bottom. However, you don't need that. If you have a piece of tube, I'll leave a piece of tube here, and you'll put the little piece of tube on the end of this, and then you just place it right down here. It's spark plug 1. Tighten it with your fingers until it's finger tight. And then with the ratchet, give it a quarter turn, so just 90 degrees. And that should be as tight as it needs. Again, don't over tighten it. It doesn't need to be crazy. Next is going to be the valve cover. When you do this, real quick before that, I just need to make sure the hoses that I'm thinking about are connected. Connect these, put these back. Make sure there's no like gunk on the side here. There might be a little bit of gunk. Try not to get any gunk from the fuel rail in here. There's a tiny bit, but that's okay. Just try to avoid it. Don't cut yourself on these cam gears. They're extremely sharp. Obviously take the dipstick out. When you do the valve cover, make sure this gasket is seated properly all the way around. And then this should literally just like sit on top of here. You'll have to move this out of the way. You bend it up, put the valve cover under it, because there's a hole that it slips right into. And then once it sits on top, there's a bunch of bolts here, all down the middle. There's 2 in the front, don't worry about those. I'll show you that in a second. But in the back here, there's this hole. Or I'm sorry, not this hole. On the valve cover, there's 2 holes here. This one and this one. Those are right here. One is a Phillips, one is a 13, I believe. Whatever the hell this is. 13. Okay, so this is everything you need for the valve cover. 5/8 ratchet, 10mm for these. Do not over tighten these. These are super fragile. I believe they only need like 7.5 Newton meters. You'd have to double check on that. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Screwdriver, 13mm, same thing fits on here. Then these 2, you'll do them last. You do all these first on the valve cover. Make sure you move this clip back up here, and and this hose with this clip, right, connects right here. Do you a favor, plug that in. This goes right back on here. Pull this down, and then this, make sure it's fully seated, like right up against the thing before you tighten it. I did this to get a little bit of wiggle room. And then this one goes right here. Tighten this last. Tighten this one. Get this on here. It's kind of annoying. Get this on here first and then tighten it. These can be kind of tight. And then tighten this one last, because it's going to be the piece that lets you move everything around. Once your valve cover's on, once the valve cover's on and this is in its right spot, so it'll sit like right here. These are labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's starts up here, goes that way, and obviously 1 is super long, 2 is less long, 3 is even shorter than that, and then 4, right? So hard to mess that up, but possible. And then after that, just do a double take. Make sure you didn't forget anything. Make sure this is plugged in. Make sure this is connected. This is connected. Make sure these go back to where they go. Make sure this goes back to where it goes. You'll see that hole in the valve cover. It'll be hard to miss. You know, make sure the fuel rail isn't leaking. So when you go to turn it on, have someone stand here and make sure that it's not spraying a bunch of fuel out. You can, I think, do the fuel rail without taking the valve cover off. However, it doesn't take that long, and it gives you a lot more room to take this off. If you find a 12 millimeter deep socket, I lost it somewhere. It fell back there, and I'm pretty sure that's it. That's all I can think of at the moment. So yeah, quick recap. This is everything you'll need. Injectors first. Don't forget the spacers. Then the fuel rail bolts. Then the regulator bolts, 12 and a 10 mil. This is going to help you. This extension. Don't forget the hose clamps. Next, these 4 things for that. Spark plug. The bunch of bolts for the valve cover. See 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that 10 mil. Then the 2 bolts on the back. You can see one of them right there. One's a Phillips, one's a 13. Phillips and a 13. And then of course, clip there, clip there. There's a hole on the other side for that clip there. Don't forget that hose, that hose. That should be clipped. Do this, tighten this one first, then come down here, then do this one, and then do that one. Make sure this isn't touching any of the belts. You don't want to deal with that. Make sure there's no leaks, especially up here. Make sure there's no leaks by that regulator there. And that should be it. Good luck.